Welcome to Debt Weapon. Look, in this explainer, we're unpacking some source material that pulls the curtain back on a very hidden, very dark architecture of power. We aren't looking at the political theater you see broadcast on the evening news every night. No, we are digging into the shadowy systems operating right behind that curtain. The documentation we're examining today outlines a clandestine operating system, and it's built entirely on debt, leverage, and human compromise.
Now, what if I told you the most powerful man in law enforcement spent 50 years controlled by a mob-run sex party? Just imagine J. Edgar Hoover for a second, the legendary, seemingly untouchable boss of the FBI, a man who built his entire public reputation on ruthlessly hunting down communists. But the documents point to a very specific night in 1958, a lavish party in the Plaza Hotel. The allegation here? Hoover was secretly recorded living out illicit fantasies while wearing a dress. And the man behind the camera was Louis Rosenstiel, a powerful liquor tycoon with deep, deep ties to the mob. So for the next 50 years, Hoover publicly swore the mafia didn't even exist. Why? Because he was absolutely compromised.
Section 1. The business of blackmail. This brings us to the core mechanism of this shadow industry, the favor bank. The source material defines this as a clandestine system where illicit favors are methodically recorded, locked in a vault, and then traded as pure leverage. You see, in the world of the absolute elite, a favor is literally never free. When you make a withdrawal from this favor bank, you're hit with a lifelong interest rate. You owe your loyalty, your vote, and essentially, your soul. It's an operating system where human weakness is weaponized to siphon power directly away from the government and the public. Section 2. Architects of the favor bank.
To really understand this infrastructure, we have to look at the masters of leverage who actually built it. Enter Roy Cohn. Now, Cohn didn't wait around for powerful men to slip up. He manufactured the dirt himself. Cohn would host these highly exclusive gatherings in the Plaza Hotel's infamous Blue Suite. He'd arrange for generals, admirals, and congressmen to engage in fantasies they could never ever publicly admit to. And every single moment was secretly recorded. Those tapes went straight into Cohn's vault. He became the ultimate fixer in Washington. And the cost of his help? An open account in his favor bank. The cruelty of this system was matched only by its massive hypocrisy. Cohn weaponized what was called the Lavender Scare. He framed homosexuality as a grave national security risk to systematically and ruthlessly purge his political rivals. The really dark irony detailed in the text? Cohn himself was a closeted gay man. It was pure, cyclical hypocrisy engineered solely for the sake of leverage.
Section 3. The Director's Secret Files.
But J. Edgar Hoover wasn't just a victim in all this. He was a very quick learner. He turned the FBI itself into a national collection agency for blackmail, compiling what became his infamous secret files. And the scope of this was just staggering. He collected deeply compromising material on sitting U.S. presidents, influential senators, and massive celebrities. The documents indicate he bugged civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., and even held blackmail footage over President Franklin D. Roosevelt's own wife.
The result of hoarding all this intelligence? Total, absolute invincibility. Richard Nixon literally admitted he was completely powerless to fire Hoover. Why? Nixon said, quote, he knew too much. Hoover successfully engineered a paradigm where the agency director was somehow more powerful than the commander-in-chief.
Section 4. The Modern Shadow Industry.
Now, the source material urgently warns us that this operating system didn't just die with Hoover or Cohn. No. It evolved into something much darker. The documents trace a direct lineage, from Cohn's Blue Suite in the 50s, through Hoover's legacy in the 70s, right up to the mysterious arrival of Craig Spence in 1980s Washington. Spence was this lobbyist with a pretty modest background who suddenly possessed highly classified information. He followed a blueprint that maps perfectly onto the modern, high-profile Epstein-type figures operating today. And the numbers surrounding Craig Spence are absolutely staggering. The source details how Spence spent upwards of $20 grand a month on male escorts for his powerful guests. His Washington mansion was rigged top to bottom with covert surveillance. He openly boasted about having CIA ties and was allegedly intertwined in the Franklin scandal, which the text describes as a massive pedophilic blackmail ring designed specifically to compromise the political elite. But in this industry, loose ends are never tolerated. When the political heat surrounding Spence reached a boiling point in 1989, the narrative took a very sharp, sudden turn. Spence was found dead in a luxury hotel room, fully dressed in a tuxedo, a telephone still cradled to his ear. Authorities quickly ruled it a suicide. The source notes how incredibly convenient this death was, right? It permanently silenced his secrets and ensured his network remained hidden in the shadows.
Section 5. Escaping the system.
So why even bring this dark history to light? Well, because understanding this architecture is the very first step to escaping it. According to the text, the elite utilize complex loopholes to cheat death, hoard capital, and maintain leverage. Meanwhile, they want you functioning as nothing more than a docile cog. You're subjected to what the source calls murderous taxes. You surrender 25% of your paycheck to fund absurd projects. Projects the text cheekily summarizes as government-funded studies on smart toilets and cocaine puppies. It's an entire system of financial exhaustion.
To break out of this extraction loop, the source material proposes a direct escape vehicle. It starts with breaking that cog mentality. The primary goal is reclaiming your time by building automated income. The text introduces the 5-day faceless income fast start, which is a system to duplicate automated YouTube channels. It's presented in the documents as a literal financial rebellion, a method to build sovereign wealth completely outside of these highly controlled corporate structures.
But the control isn't just financial. The source argues it is deeply physical too. The text exposes what it calls the sickness cycle. It claims massive corporate conglomerates are flooding the market with industrial cocktails. These everyday personal care products are allegedly filled with parabens and chemicals that actually mimic estrogen and lower your testosterone. It's framed as just another layer of the elite system, designed to keep the population weak, dependent, and highly profitable for the medical industry.
The solution presented in the source material is a hard, uncompromising rejection of these corporate products. It introduces an alternative, the evil goods whipped tallow honey balm. The text frames this not just as skincare, but as a direct act of defiance against corporations profiting from public sickness. It's a middle finger to corporate poison. The source material even includes a 30% discount code, really incentivizing its readers to make the switch and step right out of that corporate sickness cycle today.
Look, everything we've covered connects back to a single chilling thesis from the documents. Blackmail isn't just a crime, it's the operating system for those at the top. From Roy Cohn's secret vaults to the mysterious intelligence front companies operating right now, the ultimate goal of the elite has always been pure, unadulterated leverage over society. And here's the kicker, they rely entirely on you remaining a willing participant.
The final message from our source material is a stark call to action. Once you understand the racket, they lose their power over you. You don't need a politician to save the day, because honestly, the politicians are already compromised by the favor bank. Build your own assets, protect your health, reject the pillars of their system. So, the question is, will you remain a docile cog funding their leverage, or will you choose to step outside the system and stay dangerous?